Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to return to Germany and we're going to revisit a brewery that you've seen me review a good number of things from now actually. So for this one we are going to return to Aying, which is just outside of Munich in Bavaria in Germany, and for this one we're having a taste of another beer from Privatbrauerei Ayinger. So this one is the Maibock. It's another seasonal beer. You saw me review their Frühlingsbier just a couple of videos back, but this one comes in at 6.9%, so it is a little bit of a beast, but basically the Maibock style is quite an interesting one. It originated in a little town I believe called Aibling in Bavaria, and it spread throughout the whole of the rest of Bavaria, to be honest with you. So from what I remember of this style, because I don't review too many of them and I don't drink too many of them, it's basically a slightly stronger alcohol and more malty and sweet lager actually. It's a bit of a beast, this one, from what I remember, if we think about it as a kind of traditional lager beer. So really looking forward to this one. When it comes to a style you don't taste too often, it is always good to go to one of the breweries that you know you can really kind of trust. So yeah, you always get some good beers from Privatbrauerei Ayinger. So really looking forward to trying this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Privatbrauerei Ayinger before. No doubt I will add some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. And do in particular let me know about any other really good Maibocks that I should try and review for you on the channel. I'd love to review this style a little bit more because I love my German traditional beers. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Privatbrauerei Ayinger. So the Aying brewery was founded back in 1876 by Johann Liebhardt, who took over his parents' estate that they'd bought back in the year 1810. He was assisted by his wife Maria, and the pair had been inspired to open a brewery because of the economic boom that was happening in Germany following victory over France in the Franco-Prussian War and the subsequent unification that you had of Germany. You had the Northern Confederation before, and then you had the independent states like Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg before that, and after they beat the French, or I think it was during the war actually, I think it was in 1871 that you had this new unified Germany that we know today. But they began constructing their brewery back in 1877, and they produced their first beer in February of 1878, and during this time they could only brew beer between September and April, basically through the winter, because they didn't have artificial refrigeration at that time. But the brewery continued to grow due to the development of the railways, the telephones and electricity that came at the beginning of the 20th century, and Johann then passed on the brewery to his eldest daughter's husband, who was called August Zeyentmeyer. But Johann died in 1910, and then August had to fight in the First World War, and during this period the brewery was completely run by his wife and 3 young daughters, and due to the rationing of malt they were only producing around 15%, or only using 15% of the brewery's total capacity. But when August returned home from the war, the brewery was in trouble due to the economic crisis in Germany, the various putsches and you know, the hyperinflation and things like that was going on. But they also suffered from a fire as well, but they did manage to recover and rebuild from this. In the late 1920s though, the brewery regained growth by bottling their beer and then sending it to Munich on the trucks that they'd invested in. But in 1936 the brewery passed on to the eldest daughter of August, which was Maria, and her husband Franz Crescient's Inselkammer. So the brewery production lowered during the Second World War. However, France managed to grow the brewery very successfully in the post-war years, and the brewery bought the Palazzo Hotel in Munich in 1953 and invested heavily in infrastructure in the late 50s and early 60s. And in 1963 Maria and Franz passed on the brewery to their eldest son Franz again, who had been trained in business and as a master brewer at Weihenstephan, which is just in Freising, which I believe is to the north of Munich, if I'm remembering my geography correctly. But that is the location of the world's oldest brewery, and also the Technical University of Munich's brewing school at Weihenstephan. But his brother Gusto ran the brewery tavern, and Peter ran the Palazzo Hotel in Munich, and under their stewardship the company continued to grow quite steadily. But the brewery celebrated their 100th anniversary in 1978, and the brewery also helped establish a local history museum as well, and since then they've done some drilling to get their own water source as well. They've also opened up a new brewery building in 1999, which is one of the most technologically advanced in Europe Europe as well, and they've got a whole host of different traditional German beer styles. So if you want a lager beer, if you want a Helles lager beer, a Dunkel beer, a Doppelbock and things like that, you can get all of them actually from Privatbrauerei Ayinger, a very well known traditional German brewery in fact, and they've got their 4 seasonal beers as well. You've seen me review the Winterbock a couple of years ago, and they've also got the Kirstebeer, if I remember it, it's called something like that, the Frühlingsbier, and they've also got the Weizenbock as well that I need to have a look at. I would actually like to have a go at their Weizenbock, and of course there's this guy here, the Maibock as well. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Privatbrauerei Ayinger just now. There's some really interesting pages you can read on the website. You can check the website out if you want to learn a little bit more, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on there. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. We can get rid of the brewery notes for the moment. So there you can see the standard Privatbrauerei Ayinger artwork on this one, very traditionally German of course. The blue and white checks here are, I don't know if it's right to say the national crest, or one of the local symbols, I guess, of the state of Bavaria. On the back you can see, as Bayerische Bier is, it is a protected European Union trademark. And there you can see again Ayinger at the top here. It doesn't tell you anything really in English about this beer, although you know, I've told you a little bit about the history of things here. It says on the front, gebraut nach dem Bayerischen Reinheitsgebot, brewed in accordance with the Bavarian purity law, nach originaler Rezeptur von der Privatbrauerei Aying. I think that's basically saying after the original recipe from the brewery, the Privatbrauerei Aying. So yeah, Germans, they like to have that kind of traditional thing there. And there you can see some pictures of the town of Aying on their bottle cap as well. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. As I mentioned to you at the start of the video, a 6.9% Maibock beer, which is kind of like a very strong lager, to be honest, and a little bit more malty. I will also say in this video that usually you would drink this beer in a Stein, but I still need to get a hold of a transparent half-litre German Stein for these bottles. But I quite like using the tulip glasses. This one is a little bit thicker, so it does mean that you know, you are a bit more inclined to gulp the beer, because German beer is supposed to be sessionable and drunk that way. So this one does have a little bit of a more sessionable quality to it, this beer, or this glass rather. But the tulip glass I think is the best all-rounder for all the different beer styles. So I quite like using this shape of glass just for any beer style, to be honest with you. So yeah, as you can see, this one has poured, if I hold it up to the light, it's pretty much a nice pale golden straw colour. Not much more to say about it in terms of colour. It is crystal clear. You can see if I put my fingers behind the glass there, absolutely crystal clear. There's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one. It's not even a little bit creamy, perfect white, but yeah, it looks pretty much as you would expect from a nice sort of lager type beer. This one, as I say, you can get some Maibocks that are a little bit darker than this. You can get them being a little bit more orangey amber, but this one definitely looks very almost lagerish, pilsnerish in terms of its appearance. So yeah, looks very good. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. You can see there's 1 or 2 big bubbles of carbonation sticking to this one, so I've got a feeling this one will be a little bit of a crisp beer. So let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. Oh yeah, it smells nice. I mean, straight away you get that nice typical German malt base. I'd be curious to know if they are using Weirmann malts from Bamberg or something like that, or if they do have their own local maltery down in the sort of Munich area that a lot of these breweries use. But yeah, with this one, it really has a very nice, light, sort of crisp Pilsnery malt quality to it. You can detect a little bit of that just coming out of the base of this beer. You do get some nice kind of white bready notes in there. I always used to love the German bread when I was living there. But yeah, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of smooth, slightly syrupy, caramelly, biscuity thing. Little touch toasted as well, and you can notice some of the almost bread crusty notes coming out of this one too. But still very, very light and lagerish in its aroma, I would say. But yeah, you can definitely tell, I mean, if you know the likes of Pilsner Urquell, the original Pilsner beer, and if you know what a regular kind of Munich Helles is like the if I remember correctly, the Jahrhundert beer is the one of the big Helleses that these guys do, and it's beautiful beer, by the way. Make sure you try that one. But yeah, you can definitely smell that this one is a little bit sweeter in its malt base. There is a bit more of a kind of caramelly brown sugar presence to this one. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer, because it's always interesting to learn new things about different beer styles, but this one is definitely a little bit more caramelly and malty in comparison to the you know, to the other sort of lager type beers that you're going to come across. Although the Dunkel is even more brown sugary than this, but you can just smell that this one is a little bit more boozy, but it definitely has that kind of crisp presence that you expect from a lager type beer. On the hoppy side of things, you do get a nice little bit of grassiness and floral quality from this one. Definitely some nice Hallertau hops in there. You can pick out that nice little touch of a light earthiness too, so some nice floral notes and also a little bit of that lighter kind of grassy quality in there as well. On the fruity side of things, I would say there's a little touch of a kind of peary, appley ester, but you're also getting some of these grassy, almost lemony citrus notes coming out of this one too, but definitely a little bit of a kind of peary, appley ester coming out of this beer. So yeah, just make sure that you take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. But I think this is going to be a special beer, so I really hope that it does turn out to be. I do like these Maibock beers, and I do enjoy my traditional German beers, as I said. So let's get stuck into this one and just see how we get on. As I always say, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma for yourself. So this one is the Maibock from Privatbrauerei Ayinger in Aying, just outside of Munich in Bavaria, down in Germany. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. Yeah, that's nice, that. Very, very clean. That's the first thing you're going to notice about this one. Yeah, and I will say that you can detect the booze in this one a little bit actually. You do get just a little touch of alcohol warmth down here, but it works nicely for it actually. So yeah. Yeah, just real nice Christmas this one. I'm having a very German day today actually. I had to stop at Lidl on the way home and I actually bought a pretzel before, just and ate it on the train on the way home because I hadn't had one in ages, and now I'm drinking German beer. Kind of reminiscing about my days. I even bought schnitzels in Lidl actually as well. So very German day for me in fact. But yeah, this is a nice beer. I like this one. To me, it's not. I wouldn't drink this one as a sessioner because you can feel the alcohol warmth in it, but it's nice to have this as a sort of dinner beer or something. This would be a nice beer to have with one of these kind of traditional Bavarian dishes, actually. So with this one then, straight away you're going to notice there's a nice smooth bready quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. The sort of crisp pilsnery notes that I was picking out in the malt base in the aroma aren't quite as obvious in the flavour as they were in the actual aroma itself. But yeah, you've got that nice smooth bready base to the beer. On top of that you can feel this almost biscuity quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue as well. It reminds me of McVitie's digestives actually. I'm not sure if you get those in Germany right enough, but it really reminds me of just the almost syrupy thing that they put in McVitie's digestives just to hold the biscuit itself together. But yeah, it's a nice Maibock, that one. It's amazing how when you haven't had a beer style for a while, you drink it, and all the qualities of the beers come back a little bit. But for me, this one, it is quite nice. You can feel the alcohol in this one, though. I would say that about it. It does come across as very clean, but you do feel the booziness in this one. If you go to the very centre of your palate, you can feel a little, almost like a little circle where the kind of sweeter caramelly notes are coming out of this one. And they come across as being slightly syrupy, almost not quite treacly, but they do have just a little bit of a syrupy, brown sugary note to them as well. But yeah, I have to say that it is quite nice, this one. I like having a slightly malty lager like this. It almost reminds me a little bit of the I want to say the Letzak lager beers that you used to get in the Czech Republic, except this one, it doesn't quite have the same breadiness that you would get from the Czech beers, incidentally. But yeah, really nice on the malt base that. And it dries, as you go further into the flavour with this one, the malt base just dries out a little bit and you get more of a kind of slightly grainy note there, but then the brown sugars start to push their way out of this beer as well. It's quite simple in what it's doing in the malt base, but it does it really pretty effectively, I have to say. On the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate you've got a nice little touch of earthiness in there, and that's that typical kind of Hallertau noble hoppy earthiness in there. It's almost a little touch sweet actually, and it builds a good bridge with the almost bread crusty notes that you get in this beer. So yeah, nice little bit of a kind of earthy quality to this one. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, it's a little bit more floral and aromatic actually, and then there's a nice little bit of grassiness around the front curve of the tongue as well, which is very nice. Yeah, I do like how this is going together. We're going to put the rest of it in the glass now, because you know I will end up drinking all of this beer. But yeah, it's a really nice, very smooth, but still, you know, quite boozy lager beer. This one, you're not, you know, I'd be struggling to drink two of these, and you do see when you go out in Germany, you will see some of the people drinking Weizenbocks and things like this, you know, drinking 2 or 3 of them on a night. And to me, those beers are, especially the wheat beers and the things like this, I find them very heavy. You know, I could easily drink a litre of Dunkel or a litre of Helles or something like that, but to drink the beers like this that are a little bit heavier in alcohol, and the wheat beers I do find quite heavy just in the stomach and things like that too, it would be a little bit of a challenge. But there's nothing wrong with the beer at all, and it really, you know, it has great flavour, this, and it's very, very clean. But to drink something like this at the rate that the Germans do, and the Czechs as well actually, is quite something. You do need to go there and see that for yourself. But yeah, a nice big malty boozy lager beer, this one. In terms of the fruity side of the beer then, as I always say, the fruity esters from the hops, they come out in that little oily bubble that you get behind the front curve of your palate. And for me, this beer, it's mainly a kind of grassy fruity ester that you're getting out of this one. It's like that lemony, grassy type flavour that you're getting out of this beer. There is a little bit of a kind of peary note to this one, a peary kind of sultana quality to the beer actually. Yeah, the rest is a little bit of a slightly peary and almost dried, like white grapey quality to this one. Peary, it's like orchard fruits, to be honest with you. There's maybe a teeny little bit of a, you know, there's maybe a teeny little bit of a kind of, how do you say, I just thought there is just a little touch of a red fruity note to this one. It's almost like a kind of candied red fruit, but that's very, very minimal. It's almost just right on the tip of the tongue actually, and it's almost a little bit like black curranty or something like that. So yeah, there is a little touch of a red berryish fruit quality to this one, but mainly the fruity side for me is a nice lemony, citrusy, grassy note, but also a little touch of a, you know, a little touch of a kind of peary, orchardy ester type note out of the beer. But overall, it's a nice beer, this one, just a little bit like a more boozy lager rather than anything else, and you can feel the alcohol warmth in this one a little bit more than you can from the other Ayinger beers that I've had. I mean, this one's less than the Celebrator. I think the Celebrator's around 7.4, 7.5 if I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's a really, really nice Maibock beer, this one, but don't try and session these. That would be a little bit dangerous, especially when they're in the half-litre bottles. But that's not to say if you, the exception to that rule would be is that if you are German, of course. But yeah, with the mouthfeel of this beer then, I would say it's a mid-bodied beer, this one. The carbonation is quite smooth. To me, this one leans towards the oily side of things. At the same time, though, it does have a little element of crispness to it, which is quite nice. You also get some of these nice, you also do get a little bit of a nice kind of malty, sweet character to this one. As I say, it's the malt base in this one, it does have an element of smoothness to it, but it's quite an oily, kind of sweet, brown sugary note that you get out of it. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness. I think you're talking about 30-ish IBUs in this beer, and of course you've got a little bit of a juicy, but still quite citricy fruit character in this one. But overall, another very, very nice beer from Privatbrauerei Ayinger. I'm not surprised that they've produced such a good quality beer, but I would struggle to session a couple of these Maibocks. You know, this is one that I think you have every so often as a taster, or you have it with a meal or something like that. because you do get a good little bit of alcohol warmth out of this one. So not one of the more sessionable German beers in my opinion, but still, pardon me, very, very nice nonetheless. So have a go at it for yourself and just see what you think. It was cool to be able to try this one for you through after the small partiers in Sleestemberlaget. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. I can feel the alcohol going to my head a little bit with this beer. And that tends to happen actually when you've got beers that are very light in their characteristics, but they do have a good bit of alcohol in them. You can feel it with this beer just because there's not a lot to almost soak it up. So yeah, interesting beer this one. So have a go at it for yourself and see what you think. It's very highly rated, you know. I think on Rate Beer it had a 98 overall, and it was 3 into the high end of the 3 stars on Untappd as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Maibock, one of the seasonal beers from Privatbrauerei Ayinger in Aying, in just outside of Munich in Bavaria in Germany. Have a go with this beer for yourself and just see what you think. As always, do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Check out my social media and stuff like that, and I thank you once again for watching my beer reviews. The Maibock from Privatbrauerei Ayinger in Bavaria in Germany. Until the next time, it's Slange just now, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Make sure you give me some Maibock recommendations, and hopefully I can review more of these for you. Slange, Skål, Prost.